This relationship is not something that will carry itself. You'll have to actively maintain this relationship. There's something, the love between spouses is not something that just carries on. It has to be maintained and nurtured and flourished. It needs to be something that one needs to come back to. You cannot assume that it's there. It can dry up and it can fizzle away. The assumption that something has been forgiven or the feelings of hurt are gone. That assumption, the hurt doesn't go away on its own. You have to work on getting rid of it. You have to fix it. So there's an active role necessitated. You know, sometimes people are living under the same roof. They're not talking to each other for years. Or not any real conversation anyway. How was dinner? How was work? How was traffic? Okay, I'm just gonna watch TV now. And years go by and people actually haven't had any conversation. They haven't built any relationship at all. The only thing they share is a roof. That's all they share. That's not what men are supposed to do. And it's particularly difficult for men to be active in fostering a relationship because we're not much of a talker anyway. We like to just be passive. We like to just come home after a day of work, sit on a couch, put on the TV, or just get on our device and just, I don't want to talk. And she'll come and say, hey, so how's your day? What's going on? Tell me how you're feeling. Says, can we do this later? I don't feel like this right now. We're not the ones that initiate. And we have to be the ones that initiate. That's the first implication. To make a commitment, to commit to something. Men have to commit to this relationship. The thing that holds something together and the thing that maintains that you can rely on all the time. Furniture can move inside of a house. Walls can move. Pillars can't move. Pillars have to be a constant. We have to be the constant in our families for our women. We can't be fluctuating. Yesterday you said this, today you're saying that. Yesterday you said this is okay, today it's not okay. You can't be fluctuating. You have to be constant. And that's one of the other implications of the word qiwam. And finally, one of my favorites, from it comes the word qima. Not the ones that they eat. But qima is actually value, thamanu shay. That a man being qawam is actually responsible for letting his spouse know how valuable she is. He gives her value. He appreciates her. He acknowledges her. He lets her know that she's beautiful. And a lot of men actually do the opposite. Let her know how fat she is, how ugly she is, how short she is, how dark she is, how freckled she is, or whatever. And they'll do that constantly, putting her down, demeaning her value. You know, or insulting her intelligence. God, you're such a horrible driver. You're so annoying. Why can't you just take the normal right turn like everybody else? You know, why are you in this lane? Why aren't you in that lane? Constantly putting her down in some way or the other. And a qawam is someone who gives value instead of taking value away. Like if the woman feels, stupid when she's around her husband, when she feels ugly when she's around her husband, when she feels valueless when she's around her husband, then he's not being a qawam to her. This is what we have to be, qawam. But the reason I was probed to bring this topic up as a khutbah is because recently I've been engaged in quite a bit of travel. After a program is done, I spend a few hours just talking to people. People just come up to me and they ask me all kinds of questions or share concerns, and overwhelmingly, the women that came and spoke with me about how their husbands they're good husbands, but they allow her in-laws to be abusive. In other words, they live joint family system or whatever it may be, or the husband has his wife, but he also has his parents, and the parents are abusive to the wife, and she has to put up with it, and he says, I can't do anything, they're my parents. What do you want me to do? They're going to say things to you, but you should just be patient, because I'll always side with my mother, I'll always side with my father, etc. What happens here is there are two lines that have been crossed. On the one hand, as a husband, your responsibility is to your wife. You took her from her family. You took her from the protection of her parents. She had a wali, she had a father. And his job was to make sure she stays happy, safe, she's not insulted or humiliated, she's protected from all forms of abuse, physical, emotional, spiritual, all kinds of abuse. That was the father's role. And when you signed that nikah, and when you said you agree, then all of those roles were shifted over to you. You're supposed to be as protective of her, even more so, actually, than her father was. Because your relationship with her actually even goes further. She's even the mother of your children. There's more here. And so you were supposed to be a shield around her. At the same time, you are also a son. A son to your mother, a son to your father. And this religion teaches us that we cannot even say oof to our parents. You can't raise your voice to your parents at all. Now you are being pulled in two different directions. You have these enormous obligations to your spouse. Mithaqan ghalidha, the Quran calls it. A heavy contract, a heavy agreement. It's not a light thing, marriage. And on the other hand, you have this enormous responsibility to your parents. And sometimes they make you pick which one you're going to be good to. And your job is actually to draw a line and say, this is what I will do for my wife, this is how I will take care of her, and this is how I will protect her. And to let your parents know, you can say whatever you want to me. You beat me up, you curse me out, I'm your kid. You do whatever you want, that's fine. I'll take it. But you can't touch her. You can't say a word to her. She's not yours. She's not your responsibility, and she's not your child. Especially the culture I come from, you know what they say when the girl's getting married? They say, oh, she's like our daughter. Oh, it's like we have a new daughter in the family. Beware when you hear those words. Girls, be thoroughly warned. Because when they she's like our daughter, trouble is looming. Just a couple of weeks later, there's going to be commentary about how you didn't cook, or you cooked, with too much salt, or, you're lazy, or you didn't clean, or some stuff is going to begin. No. The relationship between this woman and her husband's family, first and foremost, is a relationship of mutual respect. She has to be treated with respect, and she has to treat with respect. When it comes to rights and obligations, she is under no obligation to obey your parents. I'm sorry. I'm sorry in that I feel sorry for you that you believed that for so long. But your wife has no obligation to obey your parents. And if you are forcing her to obey your parents and serve your parents, you are engaged in an act of injustice. You're being abusive. You're not a qawwam. You're not the qawwam Allah made you. You were supposed to be taking care of her. You didn't bring a servant into the family. And you're not supposed to be giving her lectures about you have to be patient, they're elder, they can say whatever they want. No. When even our family does something wrong, Allah commands us to stand up for justice. Even if it's وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. You have to stand up for justice, even if it means you have to stand up against yourself. Meaning if you've done something wrong, you have to own up to it. And if your parents have done something wrong, you actually lovingly, respectfully, head down, humble voice, you still have to let them know, you can't do that, mom. I'm sorry, you can't do that. Dad, that's not right. I'm not going to allow it. You're my dad, but those rights I will not allow you to trample. Because Allah will not be asking you, Allah will be asking me whether I was qawwam over my wife or not. If you cannot be that shield, then you are in violation of what Allah expects from you as a husband. That's very important to understand. We have situations in which, by the way, as people are listening to this, like I said in the beginning, I gave that disclaimer, there are going to be in-laws that are like, but there are wives that are abusive to the in-laws. You didn't give a khutbah about them. You just give a khutbah about how messed up we are, but what about them? They also throw shoes and do crazy things. Call them, I will, but I can only do one thing at a time in a khutbah. One at a time. It's coming. But right now we have to deal with one problem. And by the way, one evil doesn't justify the other evil. And one evil, well, they do it too, is not a deflection or not a justification that you get away with the other wrong that's happening. And you and I have to take stock in your own families. What's happening? Is this kind of wrong happening? Because if it is, then Allah will ask. The Rasul says, خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ. The best of you are the ones that are best to their families. So I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal gives us and our children the ability to be raised mentally as qawwam, and the abuse that is happening inside of our families, that we're the reason that it comes to an end. I'm not giving this khutbah that you go home and you start fights. That's not why I gave this khutbah. Ladies, I did not give this khutbah so you go say, hey, watch this video. Don't do that. That is not why I gave this khutbah. It's for men to do an introspection of themselves. That is part of the selfishness that we have now adopted. Everybody hears a khutbah or a lecture or a talk and they think, well, this will be really good for my rights. Everybody should be thinking this will be good for my responsibilities. Don't become selfish in this religion. This religion is about you serving Allah first and foremost. So we just take stock of ourselves. And when you do go back and try to implement some of these things, even implement them with mercy. Even if your parents are doing wrong and you're correcting them, you're not a police officer and you're not a judge. You're a son still. Even if you're going to correct them, you're going to correct them with love and mercy and care. You're going to be tactful and careful about it. You know? And so may Allah Azza wa Jal give us that delicacy so that we can really truly fulfill the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرٌ مِنْكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. The best of you are the best to their families.